Baruch, good morning, Botai. As we get closer to Pesach, B'ezrat Hashem, and people start going shopping, so a question that always comes up is, how makpid does a person have to be that all of the foods that a person gets for Pesach are kasher lePesach? So, as opposed to previous generations, when food production was much more simple, there weren't as many ingredients, everything was a lot more primitive. So over there, it was much easier to know what was kasher lePesach and what was not. Nowadays, everything, almost everything, must have a proper hashgacha for Pesach. And a person should not make a mistake by looking at certain products and say, hey, this looks innocent, no, there can't be chametz in this, there can't be chametz in that. Nowadays, assume nothing, because the way that food production goes today is that it's so complicated, so many ingredients, so many kelim, and so many bliot, that you can have chametz in the most, rare places. You can have chametz show up, or at least bliot of chametz. So everything should have a kasher lePesach certification with reliable kashrut. Now, there are certain products that are okay for Pesach, even without specific kashrut lePesach. How does a person know? You should only use the lists that are put out. There are certain hashgachot that put out lists of products of theirs that they know, or other products that they know, they did research, that don't contain any chametz. Use only lists from respected kashrut organizations. For instance, the OU has a list, the Star K has a list, the CRC of Chicago has a list. Lists of reputable kashrut agencies, those you can use to tell you products that don't necessarily need a specific kashrut lePesach. There are certain minhagim in years gone by about certain poskim that said to stay away from certain foods because of chametz concerns. For instance, there were certain poskim that say not to eat chicken on Pesach. Why? Because many times they would feed the chickens with chametz throughout the year, and then on Pesach when you cook it, there's a kernel of wheat or a kernel of chametz that remains inside the kishkes of the chicken, and then you cook it, it creates tremendous fekot. Meir Maran Zichron Bracha in Chazon Ovadia disagrees. He says nowadays it's not so common because the way we get the chickens, it's all cleaned out, they gut it and everything. It doesn't come with the kishkes, it's pretty clean when it comes. So therefore over there the minhag nowadays is to eat chicken on Pesach, especially because the kosher chicken factories, they're busy for the tkufa before Pesach feeding the chickens only things that are kasher lePesach anyway. At most, kitniot and not actual chametz. That's number one. The Ben Ish Chai writes that eggs should be washed down, should be cleaned very well before usage for Pesach, because sometimes when they come from the coop, you can have chametz that sticks to the outside of the eggs. Maran Zichron Bracha also in Chazon Ovadia disagrees with that. He says you don't have to scrub it down. Really, Meir you can eat it as is, unless obviously you see chametz stuck to it, but otherwise you don't have to worry. In countries like in Israel, where the eggs are stamped, over here it doesn't happen, but in Israel, they stamp the eggs with the, it says the company, it says the best by date, stamped. There's a machloket poskim whether there is chametz in the ink that they use to stamp the eggs in Israel. Maran Zichron Bracha says it's not a problem, you can use it as is, you don't have to wash it off, because first of all, usually there's not chametz in the ink, and even if there is, it's been pagum many times over before it's stamped, so you don't have to worry if you're having such eggs on Pesach. Yom Tov.